2. Have you ever heard of a man who served two queens, but was caught in the dangerous web of their rivalry? This is the story of Thomas Yaxley, a figure you probably didn't learn about in history class, but whose life tells us so much about the treacherous world of Queen Elizabeth I and Mary, Queen of Scots. Thomas Yaxley wasn't born into the highest echelons of the aristocracy, but his family, the Yaxleys of Yaxley and Suffolk, were respectable gentry. In the mid-16th century, family connections and loyalty were everything. For a young man with ambition, choosing who to serve could make or break your entire future. Thomas, it seems, had a knack for being in the right place at the right time, at least initially. His early career saw him enter the service of the powerful Duke of Norfolk, Thomas Howard. This was a smart move. The Howards were one of the most influential families in England, and serving in their household was a direct path to the royal court. It was through this connection that Yaxley likely first came to the attention of the royal circle. But the England of Yaxley's youth was a country in turmoil. The death of King Henry VIII had thrown the kingdom into a state of religious and political uncertainty. First, his young son Edward VI pushed the country further towards Protestantism. Then, his Catholic daughter Mary I violently reversed course, earning her the name Bloody Mary. Finally, in 1558, Elizabeth I took the throne. Elizabeth was a Protestant, but she was also a pragmatist. She knew she had to navigate a kingdom deeply divided by faith. Her primary goal was stability. Anyone who threatened that stability, whether Catholic or radical Protestant, was seen as a danger. And this is where our story gets complicated, because another queen was about to enter the picture. Mary, Queen of Scots. She was Elizabeth's cousin, a devout Catholic, and had a strong claim to the English throne herself. 2. Many English Catholics who felt persecuted under Elizabeth, Mary was not just a queen in exile. She was their rightful monarch, their great hope for a Catholic restoration. In 1561, after the death of her husband, the King of France, a young widowed Mary returned to Scotland to rule in her own right. This is where Thomas Yaxley makes a fateful decision. Instead of remaining at the English court, he chose to follow Mary to Scotland. Why? The exact reasons are lost to history, but we can speculate. Perhaps he was a committed Catholic who saw a brighter future under a Catholic monarch. Maybe his patron, the Duke of Norfolk, sent him as an observer. Or perhaps he simply saw a better opportunity for advancement in a new, smaller court. Whatever his motivation, Yaxley became a trusted member of Mary's household. He was appointed as a gentleman of her privy chamber, an incredibly intimate position. This meant he was one of the few men who had daily, personal access to the Queen. Therefore, the highs and lows of her turbulent reign in Scotland, her marriage to Lord Darnley, the birth of her son James, and the brutal murder of her Italian secretary, David Rizzio, a murder that happened right before her eyes. Yaxley's loyalty to Mary was unquestionable, but his position made him a person of great interest to Elizabeth's government back in London. Spymasters, like Sir William Cecil, kept a close watch on anyone associated with the Scottish Queen, an Englishman in Mary's inner circle. That was a red flag. The situation reached a crisis point in 1568. After being forced to abdicate the Scottish throne, Mary made a desperate gamble. She fled across the border into England, seeking refuge and help from her cousin Elizabeth. She probably expected a royal welcome. What she got was a gilded cage. Elizabeth couldn't let Mary roam free. Her very presence on English soil was a magnet for Catholic plots and conspiracies. So, Mary became a royal prisoner, moved from castle to castle for the next 19 years. And what of her loyal servants? Like Thomas Yaxley, they were now in an impossible position. Yaxley, along with a few other dedicated members of her household, was initially allowed to remain with Mary. Life was a strange mix of royal routine and prison reality. They maintained the rituals of a royal court, but their every move was monitored. Their letters were intercepted and read. They were surrounded by guards and spies. For Thomas Yaxley, this meant his every action was scrutinized. Was he just a loyal servant, or was he a secret agent, a courier carrying messages for Catholic plotters? To Elizabeth's government, the distinction was blurry at best. He was guilty by association. The primary fear was that Yaxley and others were helping Mary communicate with the outside world, particularly with Catholic powers like Spain, or with discontented nobles in England. These fears weren't unfounded. Several plots to free Mary and place her on the English throne were uncovered during her long imprisonment. One of the most famous was the Ridolfi plot in 1571. This was a grand conspiracy involving an Italian banker named Roberto Ridolfi, the Duke of Norfolk Yaxley's old patron and the Spanish ambassador, too. The plan was for a Spanish army to invade England, for English Catholics to rise up in rebellion, for Elizabeth to be overthrown, and for Mary to marry the Duke of Norfolk and become queen. The plot was discovered by Elizabeth's spy network. The Duke of Norfolk was arrested, tried for treason, and executed. The net tightened around Mary and her household. Now, everyone was a suspect, and Thomas Yaxley was right in the middle of it. Paul. While there's no concrete evidence that Yaxley was a major player in the Ridolfi plot, his connections made him a target. He had served Norfolk. He was devoted to Mary. In the paranoid atmosphere of the time, that was enough. He was questioned, his movements were restricted even further, and the pressure must have been immense. Imagine his daily life. He's trying to serve his queen, to offer her some comfort and maintain a sense of dignity in her imprisonment. But every conversation could be overheard, temper. Every letter could be a death warrant. He was walking a tightrope, with the executioner's axe waiting below. Yaxley's story is a microcosm of the larger Catholic experience in Elizabethan England. Many, like him, were not necessarily traitors who wanted to overthrow the Queen. They were caught between their faith and their country, between their loyalty to a deposed monarch and the demands of the current one. Their choice to remain true to Mary was interpreted as treason against Elizabeth. The years went on, Mary's imprisonment became stricter. Her household was reduced, and many of her loyal Scottish and English servants were sent away. What ultimately happened to Thomas Yaxley is less clear than his early career. Historical records from this period can be sparse. He seems to fade from the central narrative, likely removed from Mary's service, as Elizabeth's government isolated her more and more. He never achieved the great fame or fortune he might have hoped for when he first entered royal service. Instead, his career became a casualty of the epic rivalry between two of history's most famous queens. He chose a side, and in the end, his side lost. But his story is a powerful reminder of the human cost of these grand political dramas. It wasn't just about queens and crowns and armies. It was about individuals like Thomas Yaxley, who had to make impossible choices in a world of shifting allegiances and deadly consequences. He served his queen faithfully, but in doing so, he became an enemy of his own state. A man caught between two courts, two faiths, and two formidable women who changed the course of history. Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by the hidden figures and untold stories from the past, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history. See you next time.